Hello, future engineers and scientists. We're diving today into the world of science and technology to master one of the most vital writing skills, the type of paragraph called process paragraph, or describing a process in a paragraph. In your labs, reports, and technical manuals, you constantly deal with complex sequences, how machines run, how an experiment is conducted, or how an algorithm performs a task. A process paragraph is your tool for breaking these down into clear, numbered, and perfectly ordered steps. So, the aim of this lesson is to be able to write a short process description about a familiar topic in the form of a well-structured paragraph, which we learned last session. A process is a series of actions or steps taken in a specific sequence to achieve a particular result or goal. It explains how something is done, how something works, or how something is made. So by the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to recognize the structural and linguistic features of a process, use sequences to order your paragraph, different types of sequences, and organize the process from step 1 into the final step, writing an introduction, body and conclusion, or better say topic sentence, supporting details, and concluding sentence. By the end, you're going to be able to practice drafting, revising, editing, and finalizing a process description paragraph in groups and individually. Let's take an example of a process. Withdrawing money from an automated teller machine, also known as ATM, shown on the picture, is simple, yet it is a process. Let's organize it into 4 steps. To begin, the ATM system first welcomes you and prompts you to insert your card into the designated slot, as shown in step 1 in the picture. Next, for security, the machine asks you to enter your personal identification number, also known as PIN, using the keypad. Once your PIN is verified, you will be given several options. You select the withdrawal amount. After making your selection, the machine processes the request and the money is dispensed. Finally, before you leave, the machine prompts you to take your cash and then take your card as it is ejected, completing the transaction and ensuring your account information is secure. So how do we exactly describe a process in the form of a paragraph? Process description paragraph. A process is written to instruct or inform. Writing a clear process involves several key steps. Let's start step by step explaining how do we write a process description paragraph. Step 1. Sequencing the stages. This is the planning phase where you organize the overall flow. Define the goal, clearly establish the outcome of the process. Perfectly baked loaf of bread, or functional computer program, or clear water sample, or what is the goal, what is the topic. Then list all steps. Brainstorm and write down every single action required to go from the beginning to the end. Include any necessary materials or preparations. Here you have to mention all the steps. Then verify chronology. The most critical part. Ensure the steps are in strict chronological order. If step 3 must happen before step 4, the order must be correct, as process writing does not allow for jumping back and forth in steps. To help you do so, a number of sequences exist. Use first to begin with or initially in order to introduce the first step. The following steps or stages, order them using next, then, after that, subsequently. Or you may also use at this point, later, afterwards. When you reach the final step, precede it using finally, in the end, or at last. The second step in writing the process paragraph is locating the stages. Locating the stages and setting the scene is at the phase where you structure the paragraph. It is the drafting phase, including details about where the process takes place. So you first write the topic sentence. Start the paragraph by clearly stating the process and the goal. For example, to successfully make a simple electromagnet, one must complete 3 sequential stages. So here we know what to use the topic and what type of paragraph we're writing. Then locate the action. Integrate details about the location and equipment required. You can use place prepositions like on the workbench, inside the chamber, beneath the microscope. So locate your process. You can also use where relative clauses to add context about the specific place. For example, the customer enters the PIN at the keypad where it is verified by the system and the transaction is authorized. Another example, the procedure begins in the clean room where all samples are kept sterile. Then you can also add transition words. You insert time transition words and phrases. This is when you start writing the steps one after the other, beginning from step 1, creating coherence and flow. You may use a variety of sequences like we explained earlier. Stage 3 is called describing and explaining each stage. This is the part where you write the development and add details and clarity for the reader. You describe the action for each step, identify clearly and state what the reader or agent does. Provide necessary detail, include specific facts, measurements, tools, or explanations needed to execute the step successfully. For example, instead of saying mix the chemicals, you might say carefully mix 10 milliliters of solution A with 5 milliliters of solution B in a fume hood to prevent inhalation of vapors. A set of questions can guide you in order to describe thoroughly your process step by step. You might ask yourself what happens. Here you describe the action or change, why it happens, explain the reason or purpose for this stage, and how it happens. Now you explain the method or mechanism or process involved in each stage. Let's move into some tips to make your process description paragraph more effective. Tip 1. Combining description and explanation in one sentence makes your process more informative and clear. So in each sentence for each step, not only describe it, but try to describe and explain in the same sentence. For example, you insert your card into the ATM where it reads your account information to allow you to withdraw cash. Here we have this step, we describe it. You enter your card into the ATM and then you explain why would you enter your card into the ATM where it reads your account information to allow you to withdraw cash, and this is the explanation. This clearly shows what happens. Insert cards, why or how it happens. ATM reads account information to dispense cash. So we combine description with explanation in the same sentence using a relative clause. You might also make use of subordinate clauses of different types and different logical relationships. Tip 2, to make your paragraph more effective and clearer. When describing a process, the passive voice is usually used to focus on the action rather than the person performing the action. Generally, we use the passive form or passive voice in sentences to describe a process, because we don't care who is performing the action and we want anybody to be able to perform the same action to reach the same final result in a couple of steps. That's why we focus on the action. And generally we use the present simple tense or passive present. The card is inserted in the ATM. Here we have the passive is inserted, where the account information is read, also passive to allow cash to be withdrawn. Let's together have a quick review of passive voice with simple present tense. Passive sentence starts with object. Then we conjugate the verb to be in the present, am, is, or are. After that, we place the past participle of the main verb and we add the doer of the action, which is the subject we preceded using by. The objects are the thing or person receiving the action. Here we are focusing on the action itself. Then we have am, is, are, which are basically the verb to be in the present. With I use am, she, he, it, is, and they, we, you, we use are, depending on the object with which the sentence starts. Then I place the past participle. In regular verbs, past participle equals verb plus ed. In irregular verbs, we have to know of them and we find them in lists or in all grammar books or online. After I do that, I may or may not add the subject or the doer of the action by plus doer. It is completely optional, hence again, because we are focusing only on the action. We do not really care who is performing the action as long as it is clear. For example, the ATM reads your card information. Subject the ATM, verb in the present reads your card information is the object. If I want to transform this sentence into the passive, I have to invert subjects and objects. So I start with the object and say your card information. Card information can be replaced with the pronoun it because it is singular, so I have to choose is, not am, not are, and then I put the verb to read in the past participle because the verb to read is irregular. Past participle is read. We do not add ed. Then I add the doer of the action, which is the subject, by the ATM. In process writing, the by plus doer part is often omitted, as we explained, because the focus is on the action rather than the performer.